Hi, with Tacitus today. Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about two things, I guess, or the strands of two things that are joining together. One is accountability avoidance and the formulating of politically correct progressive allegations. I'm a victim, and then accusing the person who's trying to make you accountable of some misdeed, invented and fabricated, but nonetheless a misdeed. That because that allegation is so tightly in accord with the prevailing progressive type or so-called progressive type ideology, victim ideology, that it's able to get traction, believe the victim, all that sort of stuff. So it immediately puts the person that's trying to make the other one accountable, puts them on the defensive and puts them in a not necessarily an impossible position, but certainly a difficult position. The other side of this, which is joining together with the first, is crushing defiance. Now, the bureaucrats and the deep state operatives charged with implementing the globalist project treat any form of defiance, which can be a question, it can be just or pushing back or disagreeing. They view that as defiance. Now, it's not simply just a question. It is defiance which cannot be tolerated. It must be crushed, nipped in the bud, grasped and crushed, I say. So now these two strands come together, and you can see them at times. For example, a former colleague, actually, a friend of mine, he's like the VP of sales at some place, and when he hates doing the performance evaluations because he's forced to take a lot of minority people that he wouldn't hire if he had the choice. So he's got a lot of women and black lesbians, the normal thing that HR forces on him. And he's even been threatened with, if he doesn't get 50% black lesbians, whatever, on his team, that they'll get rid of him and find someone that will deliver that. So anyway, and interestingly, he's able to get concessions on the performance. So say the performance of the sale, I'll make this simple, but say the performance of the sales team is to sell 100 widgets in a year. Then he's arguing, look, if you're going to force me to hire all these incompetent black lesbians, you've got to reduce my target, or you've got to change the compensation plan. And so he's argued successfully, say, all right, then it doesn't matter, we'll reduce your requirement to 50 widgets. So he's able to get, not only are they forcing incompetent people on him, or unqualified people, over the top of qualified people. So you've got to get rid of the qualified people to hire the non-qualified people. They've actually allowed him to reduce his annual sales of widget budget to accommodate that. That's astonishing. I wonder if the shareholders of the company know about this. The main shareholder, of course, is BlackRock, and they're fully on board with all this sort of stuff. So performance of commercial performance is irrelevant, but performance with ESG and so on is important. So anyway, he's got to do these evaluations, and he's scared to do them whenever if it's a straight white guy, it's fine, because you can say, well, hey, Billy Bob, look, this is where you need to lift your game, and this is where you need to do this, or more training or something, and you can have that direct conversation with people that also believe in merit and performance. But as soon as it gets to minority person, any form of accountability is oppression. So if he doesn't give them the minorities, if he doesn't give them a glowing performance appraisal, they will accuse him of some misdeed. So if it's a woman that's doing it, they'll accuse him of sexually inappropriate behavior. If it's the black lesbian, then he'll be accused of racism or homophobia or something. They'll accuse him of something, and they'll go straight, because if they think they're either going to get a bad review, annual performance review, or they do get a bad review, according to him, they can't get to HR quick enough to say, he did something, he behaved inappropriately, he did this, he made sexual advances, he made a racist remark. And then, of course, HR is again, a very ideological department, so their sympathies are with the minority person. So he's got to prove that he didn't do it. And then HR demands that, well, why don't you give them a good appraisal? And then they'll withdraw the allegation against you. So he's constantly being forced into those sort of situations. So now he won't do an evaluation unless he's got two witnesses in the room at the same time, if it's a minority that he's reviewing. So that's the only way he can protect himself. he's quite determined to do an honest review. The person is performing or not, or this is what they need to do to lift their game and so on. So he's quite adamant that's what has to happen. But that's the thing that he faces, that even if the minority person is concerned that they might get a bad review, then they're rushing straight to HR and saying, oh, no, he's a racist, he's a Nazi, and da-da-da. And then he says the amount of time and energy he's got to spend denying that and proving it's not true and so on, because they put him under the HR, the diversity, equity, inclusion officers and this sort of thing. They put him under the spotlight. The person making the allegation need prove nothing. They just need to make the allegation, and then all responsibility falls on him, particularly given he's a straight white male. So anyway, that's it. But how does this intersect with that's the non-accountability? But the defiance side is, now I've been to lawyer sort of barbecues or parties where, again, I've been the only person that hasn't been a lawyer at these gatherings, and it can be maybe a sort of a semi-business gathering where there's a bit of wine and cheese or something like that. It can be those sort of things too, and often, not always, but often at these things you'll meet bureaucrats that are like paralegals, and they work for the alimony agency or the child support collection people or something like that. And what intrigues me about these people is if a man, particularly if he's a straight white male, falls behind in his child support, no matter how onerous it is, the child support can be more than he earns, but they don't care. If he falls behind, then that isn't just the guy can't pay, or he's in hospital with a busted ass, or he's lost his job, or something. No, it's none of those things. He's defying them. He is defying, and they're going to get him because ideologically he's the fucking oppressor, he's the damn Nazi, and they're going to fucking nail his ass to the floor. And that's the attitude they take, that it's an act of defiance. That's all it is, pure and simple defiance, and using all the apparatus of the state. And they only meet a very low bar of proof themselves. They just need to tick a few forms on the administrative bureaucratic boxes, and he's toast. And so they have this, and it's a very emotional take. He's not just falling behind and not paying for a reason. They're not even interested in solving the problem. Like, well, let's see what the issue is. Maybe we can work something out. Not even interested in that. They want to fucking get him. And they will not tolerate damn defiance. And they see it in purely ideological terms rather than practical terms. Well, have you considered that the guy's actually been in a motor vehicle accident? He's in the hospital and has been for over a month now. Do you think that might have something to do? Don't care. He's defying. He's fallen behind. He's defying, and I'm going to fucking nail his ass. So this defiance thing is this sort of came, and the reason this has come up, and sort of particularly, I've noticed this before, but a relative has been put in a rehab hospital. They're not doing so good, actually, and I'm not a sort of direct relative. I'm like the cousin type thing, but because their direct relatives have been caught up in other stuff. Another one of their relatives overseas was ill, and so they asked me, look, Billy Bob, will you go around, see how he's getting on, and check on him, and maybe read him a story or something, that sort of stuff. Have a chat to him, and so I said, well, sure, No, I'm going out of my way a bit, and I'm not sure I really wanted to do it, but I was happy to help. I know them, and they're good people, and I'm happy to assist. And I've got another relative who's not ill, but senior, very much a senior citizen who needs help, so I get involved in that. Anyway, so I'm there a few days ago, and one of the medical procedures that this guy is supposed to get, he hadn't had, and they've got like a list up on a board in his room, and I noticed that it hadn't been done, so I didn't think it was a big deal. So maybe they're just running a bit late or anything. So I thought, no, nothing to worry about here. And off I went. Anyway, I came back a couple of days later and it hadn't been done again. So I'm thinking, hold on a minute, I'm there 2 days and it hasn't happened on both days. And it's like, well over an hour past the time when it's supposed to happen. So what, are they running behind or something? So I thought, well, I'll ask. And so I asked one of the attendants, I said, look, Billy Bob's thing hasn't, medical procedure hasn't been done. I'm just sort of asking, is it there hadn't been done a couple of days ago? Is there a problem? Will you get round to it? As far as I understand, it's important. And so the operative pretended not to understand. Oh, I don't know what you mean. Can you say that again? And now it was obvious they were ducking this. Clearly, they were trying to avoid responsibility. That stuck out like a sort of fun. So we can very slowly and carefully repeat the question. Oh, I don't know what you mean. What are you saying? What do you mean by that? And this sort of thing. And I'm speaking very quietly and say, when is this medical procedure going to be done? And now, she could have said, well, I don't know, I'll get someone, or it's going to be done in an hour, or we're running a bit behind this morning, or she could have said, but instead she ducks, bobs and weaves, does everything to avoid it. And so I was, maybe you don't know, who would know? Oh, and then that question throws her into confusion and fluster. She then grabs another attendant another operative who's passing by. This is like a hospice thing, who's passing by. And so I asked the question again. And she also goes very strange and doesn't say, what do you mean? What are you saying? And I thought, I'm speaking very clearly. It's a very simple question. When will the ABC procedure be done? It hasn't been done yet. And it's over an hour past when it's due. Oh, what do you mean? What are you saying? And it's written up on the board. They know exactly what I'm talking about. But for some reason, they sense that if they answer the question in any way, or even pretend to understand it, that they're accepting a degree of responsibility that they don't want to accept. So so when I think the fourth person who came along said, yes, we're an hour behind, and it'll be done in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. And that was the end of it, and off I went. So anyway, so I go a couple of days after that. I go in there, and I'm about to go. I've been there for an hour or so, and I'm about to go. And he seems like he's doing all right. The procedure has been done on this particular day, so I'm about to go. Then in come two women, and they say that they're here to see the patient. And I said, all right, then I'm about to go. So, no, there's no need for you. Why don't you stay? No, it's all right. We'll just be a moment, and we're going to talk to the patient, but you stay. So, and the thought crossed my mind that they were setting me up. And I thought, and sure enough, they closed the door and then say, well, we've received a complaint that you've been harassing the staff, and you've been rude, and you've been threatening, and you've threatened violence. And when you sort of caught like that, it sort of caught me completely by surprise, because they both came in together, closed the door, and they both, so they'd rehearsed it. It was pre-planned, it was coordinated, the whole sort of thing. One was a witness for the other. Now, whenever you get caught in situations like that, which is an ambush, let's call it what it is, pull out your mobile phone and say, okay, I'm going to record this, and do it properly. I'm Billy Bob, and the date is, the time is, and I'm here with, person A and B, and this sort of, and they have alleged the following. So I'm making this record. Now, if you do that, 99 times out of 100, they'll back off. They're there to ambush you. So as soon as you pull out the thing and start recording, you've not reversed the ambush, if you will. And so they'll go, oh shit, we don't want to get involved in this. But as long as there's two of them and one of you, they can say, oh no, he pulled a gun and shot at me, or he did, that they can back each other up. And make no mistake, these people will. And I'll come back to, if you pass their lunchroom, it's full of propaganda at microaggressions. Donald Trump is a Nazi. It's like this is the sort of people you're dealing with here. Radical leftists. And very angry and miserable people as well, which is interesting. Nonetheless, so they, so if that's the first thing you do, if you don't have your phone with you or a recording device or something like that, don't accept the thing. Don't let them impose the time on you. And the timing is important, because the ambush and the startle effect that they've got on you, when they suddenly ambush you like that. Remember, they've got the witness, you don't. As soon as that happens, so no, I'm not prepared to talk about it now, but I'm happy to discuss it. And can we make a time? And we can have the discussion then. And that then takes the sting out of the ambush factor. So they deliberately, again, I got up a couple of times to leave, and they asked me to stay. No, it's all right. No, we'll just be a moment, just be a moment. And then they get together, close the door, and then say, you've been accused of this. So you have to have the presence of mind to then sort of, because again, you've been ambushed. So you go, where did that come from? So you have to sort of push back. Say, okay, well, do you have evidence of this? And this was something, and this is how I respond. Do you have evidence of this? And that took them a bit by surprise. They didn't seem to know what to do. So, okay, well, if you can tell me, what was said and the threats that were made, where they were made, and when and to whom, then I'm happy to discuss it with you. And so then they shot a look at each other, and obviously it wasn't going to script here, so they weren't sure what to do. I don't have any of that information at hand. So, all right, well, I can't discuss it with you, and unless you've got facts to discuss, I can't discuss it with you. But the allegations you're making are very serious, so we should deal with it. And I'd left my phone in the car, so I was umming and ahhing about going to get the phone and come back and then make my little speech, which I have before to great effect, by the way. Well, let's record this because it's very serious, what you're saying. And so we should record this in case it gets into court, because, it might, given the seriousness of the allegation. But I also remind you that perjury is a very serious offence. People can go to prison for perjury. Prison time for perjury in a court of law, and you make sure court of law and say that with sort of gusto, and then they start to shit themselves and they'll back off of their own accord. But I wanted to keep them in play. So when I got over the the sort of ambush, the startle effect of it being ambushed, I thought, okay, all right, let's do this. They didn't have any evidence. They couldn't put anything forward. They couldn't say who it was, when it happened, what was said. They couldn't do any of that. Since, it may not have been a threat or threat of violence. It may just have been that somebody thought you'd been rude. So they toned it down 2 or 3 times, or several times, in fact, till it came down to may have been rude, but they couldn't say what the rudeness was or when that occurred or to whom. So eventually they backed down on everything. And it took some staring them down, which you have to really be careful, because you can't use... you got to be really careful language. You remember that she's got the witness, I don't. And so the witness will only back up her position, not mine, or not yours if you're in that situation. So you have to navigate it very carefully and always bring it back to facts. Well, who was, when did this happen? And the other one tried to jump in, because this was the head of the hospice and the deputy head of the hospice. The head of the hospice was a brown woman with a heavy accent, with a barely good enough English, who, by the way, was less than 5 foot tall. And then the white lesbian, who was the deputy head of the thing, so very politically correct. I mean, you couldn't get a more, tick the boxes, politically correct, affirmative action, couple if you tried. Don't know what their qualifications are. I can't imagine they're the best qualified people for the job. But the lesbian then came in and tried. I said, well, hold on, were you there? Well, no. So if you're not a witness, why are you claiming that you know of what happened? Oh, well, I'm only just guessing that might have happened. Well, you don't know. So unless you know, you've got nothing to contribute to the conversation. Wouldn't you say? Unless you were there, and you do know, were you there? I don't remember you. This sort of thing. So anyway, they backed off, and that was the end of it. And then I got a sort of a semi-apology of, look, we're very sorry about this. There's obviously been a misunderstanding, and we want you to come back in and because the patient clearly enjoys your company. So, feel free to come back in and there's no problem. And why don't we all be friends and forget about it? But that was only because they'd misfired. They tried a kill shot and it missed. And it's only because of that they were all gracious and very sort of Uriah Heep out of, Charles Dickens and everything. So that was it. But this is the thing that got me there was the ambush and the entrapment. How they used false pretenses to get me to stay because I was about to walk out, because they premeditated, prearranged it, and pre-scripted it. Now, the whole thing didn't go to script. And you know, if I was less experienced in these matters, like I've been in business for a long time, and these ambush tactics are quite normal in business when they try to, oh, Billy Bob, you know, you'll be walking past the door and they go, oh, Billy Bob, do you have a moment? Just quickly, just 1 minute, just 1 minute. And then there'll be a whole bunch of people in there that just pile on and attack you and accuse you of this, that, and that. You know, so I've been through the mill, not countless times on that. And you learn to think on your feet pretty quickly. And the first thing you need to do is do not accept the allegation and demand proof. And so you say, well, if you can't, you know, demand the proof, they can't provide it because there isn't any. And then you say, well, I do not accept your allegations. I completely refute those allegations, and I do not accept your characterization of the situation. And I fully refute. And you need to make that, you know, and then you end the conversation also crystal clear. So just so we're absolutely clear on this, I you know, absolutely deny and refute your claims and allegations, and do not accept that. And that you finish with that. But the ideal thing is you can make a recording of it. But let's you know put this sort of things together. That whole drama with them coming in and trying an ambush. That whole drama was they fucked up. They'd fucked up with delivering medical services to the patients. Now the patients are all in a pretty bad way, so they're not going to complain or point it out. So it's only the relatives that spot it. I happened to spot it because I looked at the board of the procedures they're supposed to do, and then looked at the patient in this case and realised it hadn't been done, and then noticed it the next time. So most people coming to visit probably wouldn't notice that. You know, a detail guy like me does. But so when I raised it as an issue, they panicked and thought, "Holy shit! You know, he's gonna complain, make a complaint, or he's gonna, you know, do something. So we got to get in first here. We got to say that he's a violent oppressor, fascist Nazi, quite possibly Hitler's, you know, brother or something. You know, they've got to get in first. So the whole thing was a setup to neutralize any complaint that I might know. They don't even know I'm going to make a complaint, but they can't take that risk. There's a risk. You know, accountability is like you know, a deadly poison to them. So they have to avoid accountability at all costs, or the risk of it. And so in order to escape accountability, like the women who are getting their performance evaluation, they've got to get in first and accuse the guy of trying to rape them or something like that. Yes, so those type of things. And so they've got a case that if they are judged, or if there is a complaint, or there is a performance evaluation that's not flattering to them, that they've already got an excuse like, he's only doing that because he's a Nazi, you know, that sort of thing. Now, this if we do this in the wider sort of scheme of things, this is pretty much how the globalist deep state is working. If you question mass immigration, you must be crushed. If you question infants being stabbed to death in Dublin, then you must be crushed, and so on and so on. And the way to do this, a part of the crushing process, and we see this with the Irish government or any government, for example, is to jump straight in. Far right Nazis, far right neo-Nazis. That's how they do it. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.